So the topic of this session is nopCommerce and SEO, launching with success. My name is Rich Reed. I'm from Bayshore Solutions. I'm the Director of Programming. Just a quick thing about me and our company. We've been doing nopCommerce development for 6 years, back to the version 1.9 days. We've done over 25 nop sites, developed over a dozen plugins, custom plugins for. All right, thank you. Dozen custom plugins for our clients. Our company was founded in 1996. We're based in the U.S. in Tampa, Florida, and Denver, Colorado. And we're a full-service shop. We do design, development, hosting, and digital marketing. So why are we here? So we've launched, like I mentioned, we've launched more than 25 nopCommerce sites over the past few years, and we've inherited dozens more sites to provide ongoing maintenance and support. And during that time, we've seen vastly different experiences related to nopCommerce and search engine optimization. So to paint a picture, since this is an SEO talk, we're going to got some SEO statistics up here. And just to kind of get you oriented a little bit, I know the print's a little bit small. This is organic traffic year over year. The blue line, these are two different sites. The blue line is the most recent quarter. The orange line is the previous quarter a year ago. So the top one is a retail company that sells building supplies. When they came to us, they'd recently gone through some updates to their website that had a huge impact on organic search. Specifically, they canonicalized all of their pagination for their product detail pages or product result pages in a way that told Google to ignore all the content on those pages. Huge problem. It basically removed thousands of products that had previously been indexed a year before from Google search index. And they were seeing a 30% drop in organic traffic. That's why they called us. And unfortunately, nobody was monitoring analytics at the time. So the first one, really bad scenario. Conversely, the bottom one was a company that does custom printed materials. Their experience was very different. They had a thoughtful approach to their redesign. It meant that they not only maintained their search engine rank, but they were able to capitalize on a positive trend related to their content in their blog. So what does this translate to? It means for the company that nobody was watching their search indexing, they were losing $40,000 a month in revenue. It was a 49% decrease in their overall revenue just from the drop in organic traffic. It's fine. Yeah. So yeah, and here's our back at the office, affectionately known as the Mitt Romney side. So yeah, $40,000 a month, just because they didn't properly canonicalize. So SEO matters. So I want to talk through some of the gotchas that we've experienced through some of our nopCommerce implementations and some of our best practices. So preparation pays off, and this has not a lot to do with nopCommerce specifically, and everything to do with good planning and architecture. Yet it's the most often overlooked item that we see in e-commerce site redesigns. The premise is simple. Find out what your top landing pages are organically in Google Analytics. Then find out what search terms those pages rank for. What's really driving traffic to those pages. Now make sure that in your new site you've got a page that translates all that and that you can do your 301 redirects to that new page, and that you're still using those same good search terms for the new site. It's easily overlooked, and it's a miss. We see it a lot of times, but that part of it's super important. If you have a new page, 301 redirect the old URL, and be sure to update any external links, people that are linking in from your site. So, it seems pretty simple, but again, it's something that we see that's overlooked time and time again. So tell Google what to do. This also isn't unique to nopCommerce. It's another one of the most problematic things we see coming our way. A common practice for websites in general is to create multiple URL parameters for things like sorting, pagination, and filters, and that's what nopCommerce does. Google can generally figure out what these are, but if you don't really know what you're doing, you're actually better off kind of leaving it alone and let Google tell you. Google will tell you in their tools what parameters you should be considering and which ones you should be filtering out. So saying that, there's a few do's and don'ts related to URL parameters. And this could be an entire hour-long discussion in itself, but here's kind of like the highlights. So you do want to use canonicals for truly duplicate pages, any duplicate URLs related to sorting, any duplicate URLs related to campaign parameters. Use the URL parameter tool in Google Search Console. They'll actually tell you how you're doing, and they'll make recommendations. And consider using rel next and rel previous for things like pagination. Don't use canonical tag when 301 redirect is really the right answer. So we know usability is becoming an increasingly important factor in SEO. Google and other search engines look at factors like engagement, bounce rates, time on site, to understand if a site's delivering the best possible experience. But usability doesn't stop there. Now more than ever, we have to make sure that our site's usable for all users, and that includes considering the Americans with Disabilities Act best practices. So some of the things that you should do, describe all your non-text elements via alt tags. And I think most people do a pretty decent job at that. Add a skip navigation link to support screen readers. So what that is that's a link at the top of your page that skips down to the main content. That helps out the screen readers a lot. Develop forms with descriptive HTML tags. Ensure pages are readable without CSS. Don't use colors as the only source of information. So if you've got a bunch of color swatches and you've just got a bunch of, maybe they're not images, they're actually just color blocks, make sure that you've got some text content behind that somewhere so that screen readers can interpret that. And also, if you're posting documents, try to provide an alternative to PDF, like text format documents. So smartphones have made it really easy to do product research and price comparisons on the go. Just a quick stat up here, U.S. consumers spend on average 5 hours per day on their mobile devices. A lot of that is doing product research, and a lot of it's doing shopping. And in countries where your smartphone is your primary computer, you're probably doing all your online shopping on your phone. So some of the things that we should do to make the site mobile friendly, ensure your shopping process end to end is 100% mobile friendly. Make sure that you test it through the checkout process. It's great to have product pages that render nicely on smartphones, but if the customer can't get through the checkout process on their smartphone as well, they're gonna get stuck. How many people have heard of Browser Stack? Okay, Browser Stack is a pretty amazing service that will allow you to test your application in different types of operating systems, desktop operating systems, different mobile operating systems, legacy mobile operating systems, even legacy devices. I mean, there are thousands of different smartphones out there. Browser Stack is an awesome tool, highly recommend it. They support some automated testing. If you haven't looked at it, definitely check it out. It's a super valuable tool for understanding the device compatibility of your app. And pay real close attention to page load speed on your mobile devices. What downloads onto a desktop over a broadband connection is not going to necessarily interpret real well over a mobile connection. So don't assume interactions on the desktop are going to be enough for mobile. Got a smaller screen. I think pretty much everyone's doing mobile responsive design now. nopTemplates has a ton of really nice mobile responsive themes out there. If you're doing e-commerce, you need to have that capability in place, and you have to make it a good experience. So site speed is real important to Google as far as SEO ranking goes, and something that once you kind of dig underneath the hood and find out, well, what's all the time that it takes to load a typical page in nopCommerce. And if you look at something like a category page where you've got product listings, this pie chart kind of gives you an idea of the breakdown of the requests that are being made. And if you look at a decent heavy site, and you look in the browser, you're going to see sometimes over 100 HTTP requests to load a page. So why do you need 100 HTTP requests? The big yellow area are your images. E-commerce sites are notoriously image heavy. They should be. You got a big chunk of JavaScript in the orange. We use JavaScript. I know at Bayshore we use JavaScript more than ever. In fact, we've got a whole front-end development team that specializes just in JavaScript. It's become such a huge part of our development process. And then CSS too. CSS is a decent chunk as well. That little blue stripe at the top, that's the dynamic HTML that Nop is serving up. That little tiny piece. It's all this other static content that's taking up all the download time on your HTTP requests. So, knowing that, one of the things that we recommend to every nopCommerce site that we build is to get a CDN. There's no reason not to. They're cheap, $20 a month. Will get you a good CDN, and you can use that and upload all that static content, and that'll get served from those. And let your web server just deal with serving up dynamic nopCommerce HTML. So another thing to do for performance, reduce the number of requests also by minifying and bundling your JavaScript and your CSS. Nop will do a lot of that for you. Deferred and asynchronous loading of any of JavaScript or CSS that doesn't need to be above the page. So if it's something that's being displayed below the fold, delay loading that if possible. Optimize your large images. Modern design, you see a lot of these big hero image banners, and it's not just one hero image, it's a slideshow, and they're scrolling across, and they're big, nice, crisp images. Make sure those are optimized for desktop. Make sure they're optimized for mobile. Provide smaller, more lightweight images for mobile. Look at any of the heavy back-end processes that may be running, whether you're syncing data with another server. One example is the guest cleanup process. Make sure that we actually had a situation not too long ago. A customer had turned off their delete guests scheduled task. Does anyone know what the delete guest scheduled task does in Nop? So basically, as a user visits your site, a guest customer record is created. And that allows them to put stuff in their shopping cart and kind of ties that to a customer record until they actually register. But if they don't register, it's kind of sitting out there as a temporary customer record. So we had a customer that had turned a process off that kind of cleans these up after a period of time. And we found that they had, over a period of 2 years, their customer table had grown to 1 gigabyte, which is huge. We found the culprit, cleaned out all the guest accounts. They actually had a million guest records in there that didn't need to be there. We trimmed all that down, and there was actually a noticeable boost in speed of the site. So it was nice that we discovered that when we did. Google's got some great tools for their page speed insights that'll actually give you information about things you can do to improve site speed performance. So I've got the link in there. You can check that out. There's certainly plenty of other tools. This is one of the ones that our marketing team feels like is the best and gives them the most valuable feedback. So another huge component of e-commerce is rich snippets, which are essentially metadata that follows the schema.org protocol. And they include things like pricing, availability, ratings and reviews, and they're used in the search results. So all of those in the search results up top, all the ones that you see with the rating stars, and it's got pricing information, it's got inventory, that all comes from these rich snippets that are generated on the NOP pages. And they have a big impact on click-through rates. So if you're searching for a term and you come to a page that looked like this, what stands out on there? It's the one you see those orange stars pop out. You see, in some of a couple you see out of stock, but you see one that's in stock. That's going to drive traffic. People are going to click on those before they click on others. So real important thing to have. Another related item, if you're doing PPC advertising, you want to provide Google with a product feed of all your products. And they're going to use that to generate something like what you see down there at the bottom. You can generate ads off of that. And it's something you have to maintain with them because it's showing pricing data. There's going to be pricing updates. That's another thing to consider with NOP if you're doing pay-per-click advertising. So social media is huge. Another often overlooked item are the open graph tags. They're used to display a shared item on Facebook. So this allows you to customize the way your content and your links and your description show up on social media sites. NOP actually generates a lot of this for you. If you are using canonicals, you need to make sure that the canonical link is the one that appears in the social media post, not the actual page. The other thing that NOP does for you is generates Twitter cards as well if you're targeting Twitter. And just to take a quick look at what they do generate for you, here's the out-of-the-box open graph tags that NOP generates. They're pulling this data from your product records, and it gives you a really nice-looking post that's going to show up in your feed. Here's an example of the Twitter one. These options are turned on by default, so if you're not even thinking about it and if you don't need to do any customization, these things will be in place for you automatically. So I think what I wanted to do now is kind of go through what we do as a company for our Go Live checklist for SEO. And this is a super high level version, but these are some of the most important things that we go through. Make sure your XML sitemap is in place. Make sure it's generating properly post-launch. Make sure you've got the right links are showing up in there. Make sure your HTML sitemap is generating well as well. Get your 301 redirects in place. Don't wait, a day or two before go live to say, okay, let's get our 301 redirects set up. You need to be thinking about that and planning for that, a month or more in advance. It's not something you want to be doing. You don't want to be scrambling for it when you're getting close to go live. Robots.txt. Check it once, check it twice, check it 3 times. Make sure you have the right one out on the production box when it goes live. A common thing that we've seen happen is Google stops crawling your site because a development copy of robots.txt got pushed out to production. Well, what does that do? Generally, your development robots.txt tells Google, don't crawl anything on this site. So clearly that's a bad thing to have out on production server. Check it again, make sure that you've got the right copy out there. Use your Google Search Console, monitor that on a regular basis. Like I mentioned earlier, lots of tools in there. Google provides all the data, you just have to have people in place and monitor it. Speed tests, so you're going to do performance tuning before the site goes live, but you need to do it again after the site goes live. There's different variables. You may be moving it to a different server. You've got real users. You've got real live traffic hitting the post-launch site. So you want to be able to maintain that good performance and do a structured data test pre and post-launch as well. So real quick look at just some of the NOP settings here. You want to check these before you go live. This page right here is a snippet from just the NOP general settings page. You probably go in and you configure it once and then forget about it. Check it before you go live to make sure that there's no test data left in there, that you've got the right boxes checked off. It's something that you don't want to ignore because it can certainly have an impact on the site overall. Get it? And then there's also make sure you've got, if you need to customize any of your meta descriptions or keywords or titles for products, actually NOP provides these for products, for categories, for manufacturers, vendors, your content, your blog, and they provide it in multiple languages. So make sure that if you're offering multiple languages on your site, that you've got those translations in here as well. Now, if you don't do anything with this, NOP will fill these in for you. It just depends on what type of fine-tuning you want to do to it. Okay? So that was pretty much all the content I wanted to present. We've got a little bit of time here for Q&A. If anyone has any questions or if anyone has any SEO challenges that they've run into that they'd like to share with the rest of the community.